It's to do with progesterone. So what tends to happen with men, they go on Trend, which is a progestin, and all of a sudden you go on Reddit and it's like Trend made me gay. And you over and go, you're not dying, and then they'll kick you out, or they'll put you on an antidepressant or something like that. Like, if you want to get to the bottom of either preventative medicine or interventional endocrinology or interventional supplementation or whatever you want to do, you're not going to get what you're looking for from walking into a GP's office and asking them for help. It's just not going to fucking happen. And that is why I have never been more proud not to be a medical doctor, because the tools I have in my toolbox fucking work, and none of them, bar maybe one or two things, are pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, it's funny because even when I had low testosterone, my doctor told me it was good. That it was good. But I know it's not good. It's like funny.
Absolutely, man.
How about I don't know if you ever use something like this, but we know testosterone has like a crazy effect on the brain, DHT as well. It makes you masculine and stuff. But what is this with Trenbolone? Because I know when guys are using Tren, they are more like something like the opposite happens, but also doesn't. It's like, it's very weird. Some people that I know that hopped on Tren, they say that they think that they're all right and that they do not have side effects, but you can see that they are not all right, that they are off a little bit, you know?
Yeah, Tren is a very interesting compound. So I'm probably going to butcher some of this stuff. So like, if people want to really kind of get to the bottom of like why Tren is so different to other compounds, check out Victor Black's content, because I'm basically parroting him here, but and not enough people give him credit. So Tren is a SARM, and it's an anabolic steroid, and it's a progestin all at the same time. And that's the difference, is that, so Tren is a 19-nor, so it's from the same family as Deca, but it has SARM-like properties, and it also seems to have different impacts on neurotransmission as a result of binding to the androgen and progesterone receptors that are not fully understood and probably never will be fully understood. So what happens with Tren that's very interesting? So when we look at sexuality, when we look at homosexuality and bisexuality, they're caused by two different things in the brain. And progesterone is associated with higher levels of bisexuality. And this is why, chicks have more progesterone than dudes. I don't know if you've seen this as a common occurrence, but when chicks have a higher sex drive, it's very normal for them to kind of spill over into bisexuality. I don't know that many dudes who spill over into bisexuality who have a high sex drive. It's just not a thing. And people argue that's due to society. It's a hormonal thing, and it's to do with progesterone. So what tends to happen with men, they go on Tren, which is a progestin, and all of a sudden you go on Reddit and it's like Tren made me gay. And it's a huge thing, like, and it's a real thing. And like, it tends not to actually make people gay, but it will make them more partial to like bisexual stuff and in all kinds of ways, which I think is always very funny to observe, because it's something that happens to so many people. So it's like, why is this occurring? So the progesterone aspect of Tren is very interesting, and it also can cause a lot of the weird emotional stuff that happens with Tren. Like, I've heard stories from, friends of like, guys losing their shit crying in the movie theater over like the new Spider-Man movie when it came out, and like, making people more emotional and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like you get this volatility, but then you also get this enhanced masculinity at the same time. So all these things turn up, right? It also seems to be very stimulatory on dopamine as well. I'm not sure of the mechanism for that, but it definitely brings out different parts of you. And what I've found from Tren, both in my personal use when using it, I've only ever used Tren in very low doses, but in observing it in other people as well, is that partially it makes you more of who you are, because it removes a lot of your inhibitions, because you become more confident and less inhibited, kind of like alcohol. But it can also be, some people could use it as a tool to get more stuff done, be a better version of themselves. Other people, it brings out the worst in them. And I say it just makes you more of who you are. So when I see people go, Tren made me an asshole, I go, well, if you're more confident and you become an asshole, then that doesn't mean you're any less of an asshole before. It just means you're more shy about it. So like I've got one client who said that his relationship got a fuck ton better on Tren because he became more affectionate towards his partner, because he actually did love her very much and was very affectionate with her, but he wasn't that kind of guy who was very touchy feely, so it made him more expressive in that kind of way. So, some guys do really, really well on it, but it's definitely a volatile thing that will definitely have unpredictable outcomes. So like if you've got anything swept under the rug, or if you've got kind of any kind of mental illness or anything that's not quite okay, you can expect that to kind of come out full swing. And in my opinion, Tren only has one place in bodybuilding, and it's if you're competing against other people using Tren.
Yeah,
that's it.
It does give you a certain kind of a look or something.
Oh yeah, you can't beat someone on Tren if you're not on Tren.
Yeah, true. True. Yeah, it's like all the problems with sleeping as well. It's like the trend sweats, the transomnia, name it. It's like people joke about it a lot, and relationships are getting ruined. But in this story that you just told me, it's the complete opposite. I also heard
Depends
stories.
on how you use it. Yeah.
I also heard stories about a guy that wanted to fuck grannies, like really old. I just can't imagine.
yeah. I hear a lot of dudes like wanting to fuck like lady boys, like trannies, and I'm like, yeah, that's you kind of entertaining that bisexual curiosity in a way that you think it's going to be more okay with what you believe in. But it's interesting, man. Like the big thing that comes up a lot for me when I talk to guys who are on Tren is like they say that they become like really into like porn with like two dudes and one chick. Like that's like the only thing they can get off to. Which it's always interesting in terms of like hearing these things come up, because it supports this kind of this scientific angle. But yeah, Tren's a super interesting one, man. It's a really interesting compound, and I think that it's something that unless you've got your shit together, you should stay away from it. But I think that I've only ever used it at max like 10 milligrams a day, and Victor talks about this very, very well in terms of like originally it was used in much lower doses than it is now. Like Tren was originally used in the hex ester, which came in an ampule. That was only like 50 milligrams of Tren once you took out the weight of the ester, and people were using like 1 or 2 of them a week. So it can be used in much lower doses than it traditionally was. And if you're getting those side effects like the cough and the insomnia, you're taking way too much, and like you're much better off drop the Tren down to like a minimal effective dose and then put in something else that's better tolerable, like Primobolan or Test is a much better call. And the best thing, if anyone's listening and they've got transomnia, best thing for that is the Delta 8 THC is the best thing for it in countries where it's legal to ascertain.
Yeah, interesting. Why did you actually start Tren? Was it like for physique goals, or because it was a low dose, right?
I'm very big. I'm an experiential learner, so I don't understand things unless I do them. And I'm very big on the fact that I won't recommend or work with something that I haven't tried myself. So anything that I work with or recommend for clients, I have tried. I think everyone in TRT space has a natural curiosity around Tren because it's almost a meme at this point. But I basically used it to see what it was like in terms of an experience, because the reason why I tried it was because of this argument was it can be used in a low dose as part of a prep cycle without having the side effects. And I wanted to see what that kind of dose was. So I started with like 1 to 2 milligrams a day and titrated up. And I found that it was very noticeable at like even 2 or 3 milligrams a day. It was noticeable. 5, it was noticeable. 10, it was very noticeable. So I only used it for a few weeks just to get a feel for what it did. But yeah, it was purely out of like I need to understand what this does for me, but I also need to do it in a way that's safe and conservative, because I have no desire to run it in a high dose at all. And I have no desire to do it again.
Yeah. Okay. All right.